Hello there, my name is Thiago and this is Inglês Everywhere, the podcast that helps you improve your English. I want to invite you to join me every week to take you to the next level, listening to all kinds of content, stories, interviews, chats, and a lot more. Welcome to Inglês Everywhere. Olá, ouvintes do Inglês Everywhere. No episódio de hoje eu tenho o auxílio luxuoso de Fernanda, que mora na Inglaterra já há bastante tempo e que está contribuindo no episódio de hoje com o envio de 3 áudios gravados em inglês e que complementam o episódio de número 18, em que eu falo um pouco sobre a minha visão sobre sotaques. O primeiro áudio que vocês vão ouvir é da sogra de Fernanda, que mora na Escócia. O segundo, da cunhada, que mora no sudeste de Londres. E o último é de sua filha, bilíngue. Vamos ouvir os 3 áudios na sequência.
My name is Joyce Maxwell Wells and I'm from Dumfries in Scotland. I am 74 years old, but I look a lot younger. Today it's very warm. I do like to watch films in the cinema, but I don't go very often.
Hi, my name's Jennifer Mary Hain. I am 44 years old and I like going to the cinema to watch films, and it is a very, very warm day today.
Hi, my name is Annabella and I am 8 years old. I was born in London, but I am half Brazilian. I'm currently on school summer holidays. I will be going back to school in September. My favourite subject is maths. My second favourite subject is art. And my least favourite subject, I don't know exactly, but it's either geography or English.
Como vocês puderam perceber, são sotaques muito diferentes daqueles que a gente já está acostumados da indústria americana, tanto da música, do cinema, séries de TV. E é importante a gente ter esse repertório de sotaques para que a gente não fique bitolado e achar que o inglês se reduz ao inglês americano. Quem ainda não ouviu, eu sugiro então que vocês escutem o episódio de número 18, em que eu falo de forma mais ampla sobre essas diferenças de sotaques, com alguns exemplos inclusive. Um dos áudios que vocês vão escutar no episódio 18 é justamente de Caetano Veloso falando um pouquinho em inglês, e tem um pouco do seu sotaque baiano ao falar inglês. Nesse episódio, então, a gente vai aprender um pouco sobre a vida e a obra de Caetano Veloso. É uma biografia resumida, mas bastante interessante, com muitos fatos sobre o período do tropicalismo. Eu, na minha adolescência, ouvia bastante Caetano Veloso, sou um grande fã também, e o admiro sobretudo por toda a sua obra e também pelo seu ativismo político, no período em que a gente viveu ali a ditadura. Eu vou compartilhar com vocês agora 3 palavras que vão aparecer na biografia. A primeira é o verbo turn sour. Turn sour. Sour sozinho significa azedo. E turn sour é uma expressão que significa azedar. Não somente para comida, tá? A gente também pode falar de situações que azedam, que ficam hostis. O exemplo da biografia é The situation soon turned sour. The situation soon turned sour. Uma outra palavra que vocês vão ouvir na biografia é o verbo boo. Boo significa vaiar. The students began booing so loudly that the performers could barely be heard. The students began booing so loudly that the performers could barely be heard. E por fim, a última palavra que vocês vão ouvir é praise. Praise, que significa elogio. Another Effort, 1994's Spanish language album Fina Estampa, won considerable praise as well. Another Effort, 1994's Spanish-language album Fina Estampa, won considerable praise as well. Vamos então à biografia resumida de Caetano Veloso. Caetano Veloso was born in Santo Amaro da Purificação, Bahia, Brazil, and is the fifth of 7 children. His childhood was greatly influenced by artistic endeavors. He was interested in both literature and filmmaking as a child, but focused mainly on music. The musical style of bossa nova in João Gilberto, one of its most prominent exponents, were major influences on Veloso's music as he grew up. Caetano was 17 years old when he first heard João Gilberto, whom he describes as his supreme master. He recognizes João Gilberto's contribution to Brazilian music as new, illuminating the tradition of Brazilian music and paving the way for future innovation. In 1960, he moved from his hometown to Salvador in order to attend high school. In 1963, while studying philosophy at the Federal University of Bahia, he met several other young musicians, including Gilberto Gil and Maria da Graça, later Gal Costa, with whom he wrote and performed. During this time, Brazil experienced a cultural explosion in art, political thought, and music. Bossa Nova, a revolutionary new musical style that combined thoughtful lyricism with subtle rhythm, became an important aspect of Brazilian modernism.
I'd like to know first how interconnected your careers are, and what has Gilberto Gil brought to Caetano Veloso, and what has Caetano Veloso brought to Gil?
He brought me everything. Because if I play a little guitar nowadays, it's because I saw him playing, and I just copied his movements and tried to understand what they meant musically.
And if I have deepened my curiosity about the words, about poetry and words in music, it's absolutely because of him. He's one of the most profound persons that I have ever met.
During
God,
no, man.
Man. Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Whatever.
Inspired like many young Brazilians by the movement, Caetano started writing criticism for the local newspaper, acting in avant-garde theater, and singing bossa nova in bars. Following his sister Maria Bethânia, a very successful singer in her own right, to Rio so she could act in a stage play in the mid-1960s, the 23-year-old Caetano Veloso initiated his own career by winning a lyric writing contest with his song Dia, and he was quickly signed to the Philips label. His music career began in earnest in 1965, when he started recording in Rio, and by 1966 he was competing in televised music festivals with great success. By late 1967, however, Caetano Veloso and his friends had begun to craft a new syncretic style of Brazilian pop music that incorporated regional folk rhythms, elements of psychedelic rock and concrete music, and poetic, socially charged lyrics. The compilation Tropicalia or Bread and Circuses, which included songs by Veloso, Gil, Costa, and others, served as a manifesto for their mixed aesthetic, which had affinities with concurrent trends in Brazilian visual, literary, and performing arts. Caetano's self-titled solo debut in 1968, which featured his signature hit Alegria Alegria, was in the same electric vein. As central participants in a fast-growing Brazilian counterculture, the musicians won a devoted following, which even led to their own television program, under the military dictatorship that ruled Brazil at the time, Tropicalia, or Tropicalismo, the name by which the entire social and artistic movement became known, was considered especially provocative. Caetano Veloso courted controversy with his androgynous persona and with politically subversive songs. The tensions between the Tropicalistas and students peaked in September 1968, with Caetano's now legendary performances at the 3rd Annual International Song Festival held at the Catholic University in Rio, where the audience included a large contingent of students who were vehemently opposed to the Tropicalistas. When Caetano, backed by Os Mutantes, performed in the first round of the festival song competition on September 12th, he was initially greeted with enthusiastic applause, but the situation soon turned sour. Dressed in a shiny green plastic suit, festooned with electrical wires and necklaces strung with animal teeth, he provoked the students with his lurid costume, his sensual body movements, and his startling new psychedelic music, and the performers were soon being bombarded with loud insults, jeers, and boos from the students. The ideological conflict climaxed 3 days later when Caetano Veloso returned for the second round of the competition, performing a specially written new song entitled É Proibido Proibir. The leftist students began hissing and booing as soon as Caetano's name was announced, and when he began his performance, his overtly sexual stage moves and the experimental music of Os Mutantes again provoked a wild reaction. The students began booing so loudly that the performers could barely be heard, and a section of the crowd then stood up and turned their backs to the stage, prompting Os Mutantes to turn their backs on the audience. As the performance continued, the students pelted the stage with fruit, vegetables, eggs, paper balls, and anything else that came to hand. Caetano then stopped singing and launched into an impassioned monologue, in which he severely criticized the students for their conservatism. After being joined by Gilberto Gil, who came on stage to show his support, Veloso finished his speech by telling the students, "If you are the same in politics as you are in aesthetics, we're done for," and declaring he would no longer compete in music festivals. He then deliberately finished the song out of tune, angrily shouted "enough," and walked off, arm in arm with Gil and Os Mutantes. In December of the same year, he and Gilberto Gil were arrested and imprisoned for 2 months under the terms of a newly promulgated act that restricted free speech. Subsequently placed under house arrest, Caetano made a second self-titled album, which included the first of several songs he recorded in English. In July 1969, he and Gil were allowed to exile themselves to London, where they remained active musicians. Caetano said that they didn't imprison them for any song or any particular thing that they said, attributing the government's reaction to its unfamiliarity with the cultural phenomenon of Tropicalia. They seem to say, "We might as well put them in prison." When Caetano was asked about his experience there, he says, "London felt dark, and I felt far away from myself. Nevertheless, the two improved their music there and continued to record abroad and write songs for other Tropicalismo stars, but he would not receive permission to return to Brazil."
I found it dark and distant and isolated from the world, the way it felt back then. But also we knew that music there was very interesting. We were in love with the Beatles,
the Stones,
and the Rolling Stones, and we knew we were aware of what was going on in London musically. Gil felt better.
I felt better, basically because of culture and especially music.
In 1972, having ascertained that the political climate at home had improved, Caetano and Gil returned to Brazil. Although Tropicalia had effectively ended as a movement, Caetano went on to release new albums, such as Transa, 1972, Araçá Azul, 1973, and Bicho, 1977. He also joined with Gil, Costa, and Bethânia to form the musical group Doces Bárbaros. In the 1980s, Caetano's emerging status as a Brazilian icon contributed to the best record sales of his career to that time. Extensive touring helped establish his international reputation, which grew with the release of Estrangeiro, 1989, which he recorded in New York City. Caetano professed to be bemused by his global popularity, noting that most of his songs were in Portuguese and addressed Brazilian topics and themes. Over the following years, Caetano continued to attract American listeners with the release of 1993's Tropicalia 2. Recorded with Gil, the album was considered brilliant by the music press and made numerous American 10 best lists that year. Another effort, 1994's Spanish-language album Fina Estampa, won considerable praise as well. The 15-song compilation contained Latin American songs that I like very much, that I had known since childhood, Veloso told Billboard magazine. Other non-important albums, including 1992's Circulador and 1997's Circulador Vivo, which included versions of Michael Jackson's Black and White and Bob Dylan's Joker Man, also fared well in the United States, leading the pop star in the summer of 1997 to embark on his largest American tour up to that time. In 1999, Caetano returned with Livro, originally released in Europe in late 1998, which was selected by critics for both the New York Times and the Village Voice as one of the best albums of the year. Peter Watrous of the New York Times, for example, described the record as wildly intelligent and sensual, and perfectly produced, moving from orchestral works to minimalist ballads and Brazilian drum workouts. By 2004, he was one of the most respected and prolific international pop stars, with more than 50 recordings available, including songs in film soundtracks of Michelangelo Antonioni's Eros, Pedro Almodóvar's Talk to Her, and Frida, for which he performed at the 75th Academy Awards, but did not win. In 2002, Veloso published an account of his early years in the Tropicalismo movement, Tropical Truth, a story of music and revolution in Brazil. His first all-English CD was A Foreign Sound in 2004. His September 2006 album, Se, was released in the United States. With a total of 9 Latin Grammy Awards and 2 Grammy Awards, Caetano Veloso has received more than any other Brazilian performer. On November 14, 2012, Veloso was also honored as the Latin Recording Academy Person of the Year. Caetano Veloso has been called one of the greatest songwriters of the century, and a pop musician, poet, filmmaker, political activist, whose stature in the pantheon of international pop musicians is on par with that of Bob Dylan, Bob Marley, and Lennon and McCartney. Thanks for listening. You can send me suggestions on Twitter, Instagram, or by voice message. Also, follow us on your favorite streaming platform to check out for the next episode. on ingleseverywherepodcast.wordpress.com, you can have some further information about our show episodes, including transcripts. See ya!